and I'm so excited to dive into this topic today on behavioral styles. So have you ever been shocked by the way somebody acts or reacts, or maybe the way they treat you, or maybe you find yourself super angered because they're always interrupting you and trying to talk over you, or maybe you're frustrated by how long it takes a specific someone to just make a decision? These differences are not flaws, they're behavioral styles. And I'm so excited to walk through this teaching today because we're going to take a look at the DISC framework and how understanding these style differences can completely change the way you see people and, most importantly, your reactions to them. So let's dive in. All right, we are going to dive into a very, very fun topic today. This is probably one of my favorite topics of all, and one of the most life-changing topics, honestly, that has really changed me getting out of a reactive state. Now, am I perfect at this? Absolutely not. Challenged on this all the time, all the time. People don't go away, but the more that we learn to understand people, the more we become less reactive. So I'm really excited to dive into this with you guys today. So we'll start with the question, wouldn't it be amazing if we could just all get along, right? We see life through our certain, colored lenses, and everybody else has their different lenses. So they see life, they react differently, they treat people differently. And if we make this more of like a game, make it fun, make it a challenge, you're going to learn that it's not as heavy as it needs to be. And we start putting less pressure on ourselves. It stops consuming our mind. Do you ever walk away from a conversation just so confused, like what the heck just happened? And why did they treat me like that? Why did they talk to that person like that? Right? We start understanding more of why they act the way they act. And there's so much to this, you guys. We got a lot to pack in this next 15 minutes. And I'll probably at some point do a deeper dive on this, maybe like a 4-week process on this very topic, because there's so much to learn here. So I want to start by saying being different is not wrong. Nobody is right and nobody is wrong. Okay. But what we do is when we have an understanding, it starts to lower our reactivity to what's happening. Okay. And when we start becoming more aware of other people and their behavioral styles, that creates space to breathe, to understand, to relax, and realize, you know what? I don't need to fall into the drama of what's happening right now. If I can just understand them, I have more of an awareness of how I can get along with that person better. And then things start shifting. And then now conversations become lighter. They're not as heavy. They don't derail you from everything else that you want to do in your life, right? We've got goals, we got things we want to do. We want to choose joy in every single day. So why is it that sometimes we allow a conversation to completely derail us from what we want in our life when we're never going to change them, but we can change the way we're going to react? So let's dive in. As I start going through, I'm going to be teaching and talking about the DISC behavioral styles today. There's so many different ways of understanding behavioral styles. Sometimes you'll see animals or you'll see colors or whatever. Today, I'm just going to utilize DISC. But I want you to understand that we are observing the DISC styles right now. We are not labeling anyone. We are not labeling ourselves. We're just looking to notice patterns so we can release that judgment. We don't want to have to put judgment on anybody because that's not serving anyone. But if we can learn how to maybe adapt and to get along with people a little bit easier, so we're not bringing on that heavy tension that's distracting us from living the life that we want to live. Okay, so just stay curious as I'm walking through this. DISC is going to help us to understand how we react. I'm also going to dive into limiting beliefs, right? I've been talking about that for several months now, and really helping us understand that sometimes we are, based on our past experiences, based on our upbringing, based on our culture that we grew up in, a lot of those things take the impact, the way that we're going to react and act and all of that. Okay, so once we understand some of these limiting beliefs, it's going to help those reactions that we want to have feel less intense. And so understanding, again, none of these styles are wrong. Okay, and we're just going to go through strategies right now so we can learn how we can feel more safe and connected when we're talking to people. Okay, so this is a chart, and I love this quote. Something to remember about flexibility from Helen Irwin. Those that are the most flexible have the strongest chance of success. So I'm going to encourage you, as we are learning here, you all showed up for a reason, right? we're learning to become more flexible and understanding who other people are. So the first thing I want to do is I want to divide this circle into the different ways that people focus on task. So when we're in the dominant style or the conscious style, um, those people tend to focus on task. They've got a task in their mind, and that's all that they can see. So they're not thinking about, oh, am I going to hurt somebody's feelings? Or how can I say that so it's a little bit more respectful? How do I slow down? They just kind of go full storm ahead, and they're looking for the data. The task is what they're looking for. People in the influence group and in the supporting group, the steadiness, those people are more focused on relationship. Okay. So start thinking about people in conversations, maybe sometimes people that challenge you. Think about, okay, are they a little more task oriented or are they more focused on relationship? Okay. And again, not labels. We're just helping you to understand this. And we're going to take a deeper dive into this. You could take a screenshot if you would like. And then we're going to go a deeper dive into each style. Okay. So we're going to start one with the D, which is direct, decisive. They're definitely more dominant style, right? They're very driven, action oriented, and they really value efficiency. Okay. Some of the common limiting beliefs that people in this behavioral style have is I have to stay in control to feel safe. Okay. Slowing down means losing ground. Vulnerability can be a weakness. And if I don't lead, things are going to fall apart. Emotions get in the way of progress. Okay. Again, limiting beliefs, they're not truths, but they're truths to them. They don't see that wall in between that. Those are the walls that are keeping them from focusing on relationship first. Okay. Nothing wrong here. This is just an understanding. Okay. How does this show up in relationships? They can be impatient. They can be very blunt communicators. Okay. Frustrated when others hesitate. They need their answers and just tell me, don't beat around the bush. Let's just go for it. Let's get what we need to get. Okay. And then pulling away from emotional conversations because they don't do great with emotions. They just need action. Okay. Let's move on into the I, the influential, relational people. They're very expressive, connection oriented, and they value approval. So, common limiting beliefs again, this is the wall, or the lenses that they see life. I need to be liked to be accepted. If people are upset, it could be my fault. I have to keep things positive. Being honest might create some conflict. I'm responsible for how others feel. Okay, so they're the life of the party. They're the ones that love making connections with people. You think about them, sometimes they're loud and they've got the big earrings and they've got like everyone's different in the way that they choose to create the influence. But start thinking about people like that in your life that you know. Now, how this shows up in relationships. They could be maybe over explaining things or avoiding hard conversations or people pleasing. They can feel drained from maybe over giving. All right. So think about these people in your life or maybe possibly you. We're going to get to how to best communicate with these people next, but right now we're just explaining. Okay. So the S style, steady, supportive. They're very loyal, calm, harmony oriented. Okay. Common limiting beliefs that they have. My needs come second. Put everybody else first. Speaking up is going to disrupt the relationship. It's safer to just stay quiet. I have to adjust to keep the peace. Conflict means something is wrong. Okay, they avoid conflict. They just want to be the peacemakers. How this can show up in relationships. They're suppressing their feelings. They have on hold a quiet resentment or difficult setting boundaries. Okay, staying longer than feels healthy in relationships. Okay, let's move on to the conscious analytical style. They're very thoughtful. They talk a little bit slower, very detail oriented. They value accuracy is very important. They need to see the facts. Common limiting beliefs that they sometimes carry, that wall, is I have to get it right to be accepted. Emotions should be controlled. If I'm misunderstood, I failed. And that's why it takes them so long to make a decision or to even speak. They usually talk a little bit slower. It's safer to stay guarded. I can't trust emotional reactions. Okay. How this sometimes shows up in relationships, overthinking conversations, or they have more emotional withdrawal, difficulty expressing feelings, holding things in until overwhelmed. Okay, so those are the styles. Now, this chart you probably want to take a screenshot of. This is pretty cool. And you guys, as we're learning this, we might be in our heads a little bit, right? Like, oh my gosh, am I this? Am I that? Am I this? Am I that? Honestly, we should equally be all things. And when we're too heavy in one area, that just means that, you know what? It's good to adjust. It's good to be more flexible in learning more of how can I best respond to this person so that they can understand me. Okay? And this is the gamifying part. It's it's exciting to walk away from a relationship or a conversation that normally you have a lot of friction with. What's really freeing and exciting about this and empowering is when you can walk away from that same relationship not feeling flustered, but actually just expecting them to show up that way because that's just who they are. And then we don't have to carry that angst and that frustration and that anger. We don't need to carry that because we're never going to change them. If they decide to change for themselves and do the work, then bravo, we'll get along even better. But right now, it's like, how do I best communicate with this person so I don't have to walk away with that feeling? Wouldn't that feel freeing to you to just get to a point where it's like, okay, that's just how they are. Okay. So, what you want to do if you take a screenshot of this, it's like a little flow chart here that is going to give you an understanding of how do I best get along with this person. So if you're heavy in the D style, and let's say you're talking to another person that's pretty heavily in the D style, you're going to address conflict head on. However, let go of the need to be right and be willing to compromise because both of them need to be right, right? Like, okay, I'm right, I'm strong willed, you're strong willed, we're very direct, we really just need an answer. That's great. Respect each other, but understand that I'm going to be a little bit more open to hearing their side of the story, maybe a little bit more slow to speak, right? Listen first. Okay. And then let's say if you're heavy on the I style and you're talking to somebody that's an S, okay? So if you're more I, so then try to see the positive. I'm sorry, start over. If you're I and you're talking to an S, let them know that you're comfortable talking about the issue, be open and friendly, and encourage finding a compromise. Does that make sense? So people that are more in the I style, they're like, excited. I want to talk louder and I want to be with everyone. I want to get in front of people. I'm an influencer. I'm all these things. But if you're talking to somebody that's an S, that's a little bit more quiet and timid, just slow down a little bit. Listen to them, be open instead of maybe trying to talk over them because you like to talk and get the conversation going. Realize that the people in the S category, they like to talk, but they're going to be a little bit slower paced. They're not going to be as fast talking as you are possibly. Okay. So I wish I had enough time to go through all of these, but this chart, I believe, is a very, very strong start as you're starting to develop and understanding these styles to know about who am I kind of talking to, kind of thinking about are they more of a task person? Are they more of a relationship person? Well, if they're more of a relationship person, then I'm going to be very relational with them because I care about them and I know that that is one of their highest values. And so there I'm going to slow down a bit and I'm going to do that. And if they're more task oriented and you are more of a soft-spoken person, a little bit slower moving, just realize that that person that's a little bit more direct and they need their answers a lot faster. So maybe don't talk about the emotions of all of the things and this is how I'm feeling. Just get direct to it. And you guys, this is practice. This is practice. It's gonna take time. I'm still after I started doing this work probably 23 years ago, and I'm still growing and learning in this area. But honestly, if we look at dreading relationships, or we could look at feeling empowered in relationships, you get the decision to make that choice. You get to learn more about people. There are so many videos. Go to YouTube, check it out, type in DISC, type in personality, behavioral, like type in those keywords, and you can just learn and learn and learn. And the more flexible we are, the more successful you're going to be in life and not carry that. So I hope this was valuable to you guys. So this week, I want you to try noticing those different styles around you and see how that awareness shifts your expectations and, most importantly, your responses. So instead of being reactionary, just get curious. Remember to take a look at what you can control, and that's not to change them, but to control how you're going to react. So if you haven't already, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. We've got lots of resources linked below, and be sure to join us on the next reset on how to get along with people who challenge you the most. I'll see you there.